It might say NFL Daily, but it's actually about the UFL on today's show. You might not have realized it because they didn't do a good job of marketing it and didn't announce the time on social media until 12 hours before it happened. But the UFL Draft was today, the 2024 Draft. So let's get wild. Let's break down every pick and give out grades as well because those are fun. Before we get to all the picks, the 10-round UFL Draft of the 8 teams, shout out your favorite team for me in the comments section of today's show. Flood it for me with who you cheer for in the UFL. We'll go round by round to start, then we'll go more in depth on some noteworthy picks here. A couple quarterbacks off the board in round 1. Kansas's Jason Bean. Iabi Oki, who used to be Iabi Anami, who was great at Bama for a year and then played on 5 teams in a 5-year span. Talented player. John Reese Plumlee, who was a baseball and quarterback in college at Ole Miss and then went to Central Florida. Gabe Hall stands out to me. Julian Pearl. We'll go over every pick, so I just want to go kind of quickly in round 1. Round 2, love the Blake Watson pick and Cody Schrader. You'll see a lot of these players, well, those guys are on NFL teams, Tom. Yes, they are, but they might not make an NFL team. This gives the UFL their rights if they don't make it and want to play in the UFL. Former USC quarterback Keaton Slovis on there. I like Devin Anderson a little bit coming out of Florida Atlantic. He was the first pick in the 3rd round out of Memphis. I like Kalen DeLoach a lot. Leonard Taylor has untapped talent. Amani Bailey had some success at TCU. He goes to Birmingham. Round 4, Jalen Coker had fans. Garrett Greenfield was a draftable player for me. Juice Williams, Isaiah Williams, fun name. Didn't quite match up athletically testing-wise, but it makes him a great UFL option. Round 5, Eric Watts is a freakazoid athlete. Love that pick by Memphis. Another quarterback here, Rocky Lombardi, which I'm intrigued by out of NIU. Round 6, how about Bo Richter, a little Air Force action. Things you love to see. I love the Tulu Griffin pick by San Antonio. He's got special teams ability. He could get himself the NFL shot if he doesn't make it this year by showcasing what he can do in the UFL on returns. Round 7, how about Dallas Gant out of Toledo. Akeem Dent from Florida State. I had a pretty high grade on Bo Brady in terms of the best available undrafted free agents. He goes to San Antonio too. Round 8, Curtis Jacobs, a nice pick there by the DC Defenders. Sincere Haynesworth is an elite name. Round 9, how about Tanner Mordecai going to DC? And Sam Hartman in round 9, the Notre Dame kid with some of the best hair in football, goes to Birmingham. I thought that one was a steal, quite frankly. Round 10, well, who had Bob Stoops drafting his son? Yeah, how about that? That one, it just makes sense. I'm a little surprised it wasn't the first-round pick for him. Josh Cephas, by the way, UTSA receiver from San Antonio, highly intriguing. All right, how many games, if any, of the UFL did you watch last year? We're about to break down each pick and give it a grade for each team, but sound off for me in the comments of today's show. The first overall pick was Jason Bean. Now, again, a lot of these guys are getting a chance in the NFL. I did not have Bean graded among my top 17 quarterbacks that I actually got to, but I do think he could be a really good UFL quarterback. I don't think he's going to make it in the NFL. Maybe he gets a practice squad spot. And it's one of the things you're juggling of like, are they good enough to make it and we never get them? Or are they just not quite good enough and end up being one of the best UFL players? The things you have to balance there. I loved their 2nd-round pick. Blake Watson was my best running back not drafted. I had a top 200 grade on him. If he makes it to the UFL, I think he's going to thrive. Evan Anderson I had as one of like the top guys I didn't get to on my list. I know there was people who liked him around the NFL. Florida Atlantic will be a run stopper there. Jalen Coker, the wide receiver out of Holy Cross, I had a 7th-round grade on him. One of the best available receivers that did not end up getting drafted. I think he could be an impact piece, but he might sit around a practice squad too. Eric Watts is a freakazoid athlete out of UConn. 5th round grade for me, so again, a player that I was pretty darn high on, by the way. Like you got a lot of players I had graded. That means I'm going to like it because I'm not going to try to guess too much who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. So we'll just go based on the talent, and they didn't do anything stupid necessarily. Andrew Rahm, the center out of Oklahoma, UDFA grade for me, top 300. Yavandi Rigby, I think that's how it's pronounced. The other Temple linebacker, I was a big fan of Jordan McGee. I didn't see him flash a ton. Round 8 was Jaquan Shepard out of Maryland. Round 9 was McClellan Castles out of Tennessee. And then Mason Tipton, wide receiver from Yale. I didn't do much on those last 4 guys, but 5 of those players I was pretty damn intrigued by. I'm going to go ahead and give these Showboats there an A+. I like what they did. I was a big fan of their draft haul. And I think Jason Bean is maybe the perfect blend of like not going to make it in the NFL, but could be electric in the UFL. So name a player who you want to see get a UFL shot. Sound off for me in the comments of today's show. Iabioke, who also went by Iabioke Anoma, was at Alabama and Michigan and Charlotte and bounced all around these places. He's an immensely talented football player with massive off-the-field concerns that make him tough to figure out. So it's a gamble, but it's the UFL. Why not gamble on that? Trey Flellen out of Middle Tennessee. I won't lie to you guys. I did not get to. Same with Cameron Stutz, the offensive guard out of Auburn. Although, Power 5 guard is probably a good UFL gamble, even if they weren't on my top 300, basically. Donovan Manuel, the linebacker out of Florida International, had a pretty good college career. I did like the Hayden Gillum pick. Kansas State had a pretty damn good offensive line last year. Gillum was a factor in that. Malcolm Epps, the tight end out of Pitt. I didn't get the 15 tight ends, so I'm not going to ding them too much there. Xavier Benson, I thought, popped a couple times watching Oklahoma State games because Big 12 football is fun, although I guess it's changing drastically these days. Shad Williams, and then also round 9, Malik Dunlap. So I'll give them some credit. They're going local-ish. Nothing too wrong with that front. And then Jacorius Spivey, another tight end. I was a little surprised they went with 2. Look, I'm basing this off of just vibes and who I know, and you didn't take that many guys I was familiar with. Now, that means they're going to make the team probably, but maybe lacks the upside, so I'm not going to go lower than a C+. Number 1, Arlington, John Reese Plumlee, who was working, by the way, in the Arlington area, Dallas area, pre-draft out of Central Florida. I think he's a perfect UFL quarterback. He's not going to make it in the NFL, but as in the UFL, he could actually have a pretty big impact. Griffin McDowell, I didn't watch any Chattanooga games, so I'm just going to trust them on that one. Kalen DeLoach, though, I think is an athletic, if not undersized, linebacker who can fly around the field. He was a 6th-round grade for me, so to pick him, awesome, love it. One of multiple Oregon defensive linemen taken here, Popo in the 4th round. Then linebacker Amari Gaynor out of North Carolina. I didn't love the UNC. The other linebacker beyond Cedric Gray, not obviously as good. I like going with the Air Force kid. That makes it fun. Bo Richter, Taki Tamiani, the again Oregon defensive lineman. I guess they watched a lot of Oregon and UNC film in preparation here because Spencer Rowland was also picked by Arlington. Brayson Mays out of Southern Miss in round 9. And the most obvious Renegades pick was Drake Stoops out of Oklahoma. Drake Stoops is not an NFL player, to be clear on that. But he might just be able to find a way to make it work in the UFL. I think there is the possibility of that materializing for him. So I don't mind going with him in the 10th round. I'll give him a B. I think Reese Plumlee is a fun addition. I love the Kalen DeLoach pick, but a lot of guys that I'm not the most familiar with necessarily. Now, if you guys like sports, then Chat Sports is the place for you. We're doing NFL, UFL stuff. We did the MLB draft. We do NFL, NBA, and so much more. You want more free videos? Hit that sub button right now. Gottlieb Adaize is a physically gifted player, but is immensely raw coming out of Maryland. I had him as a guard. He did play tackle there. I like that pick a lot. He is the perfect go play in the UFL and develop guy. Keaton Slovis out of BYU, who's actually a pretty decent athlete. I don't think he's going to be an NFL player. He was my 13th ranked quarterback in a kind of top-heavy class this year. Solid pick there by the defenders. And then they went with Leonard Taylor, who I had as a 4th-round grade, talented football player, but never quite played up to that talent level. Maybe he can get the awakening in the UFL. Garrett Greenfield, I had a draftable grade on, 7th-round grade out of South Dakota State. Braden McGregor, next up here, the Michigan edge rusher, who, again, I thought had a really solid season for Michigan. I had him as a 7th round grade as well. Michael Wiley out of Arizona, I did not get to. Dallas Gant was the Toledo linebacker. I didn't formally study him, but he was one of the better MAC linebackers, I thought, last year. You'll hear from about Matthew Salopek next year coming out of Miami of Ohio. I thought the better linebacker was Curtis Jacobs out of Penn State. 6th round grade for me. High-end athlete. Still got some room to grow in terms of processing stuff, but that's what the UFL is for these days. Tanner Mordecai in the 9th. Okay. It's fine, I suppose. And then Omar Brown in the 7th round out of Nebraska as well. I'll give him an A. Again, I'm being very nice. It's the UFL for the most part. A lot of players that I was fairly high on, even higher on than maybe the NFL was. I'm not going to complain too much about that one. St. Louis Battlehawks, the San Jose State quarterback, Shaven Cordeiro, I think I pronounced that correctly, in round 1. He's a UFL QB, let's put it that way. Love the Cody Schrader pick, one of my favorite ones in this entire UFL draft. 6th round grade. He's just not big. I think there are athletic limitations that will impact him more in the NFL than it potentially would in the UFL. He could be dominant at that level of competition. Feldarius Payne, I like Virginia Tech. I didn't think he was worth drafting, and he obviously did not in the NFL. See if he impacts the UFL. Bradley Ashmore out of Vanderbilt, more offensive line help. Carl Jones, the linebacker from UCLA. Isaiah Coe, the defensive tackle out of Oklahoma, who was one of my top guys to watch if I had more time, but I never do. Jelani Baker. I don't even know what the abbreviation for Limestone College is. LC? What is Limestone College? Shout out St. Louis for doing the deep work there. Jaden Janke, when I saw that pick come in, I thought they might take his brother. They did not. Miles Sims, cornerback, out of Georgia Tech. And then Miles Jones, the cornerback out of Duke. No Miles Harden, the quarterback out of South Dakota State, since he's actually in the NFL. But is it illegal to take 2 corners named Miles? Either way, they did that. I think this is mostly saved by the Cody Schrader pick. I think that was a really good one by St. Louis. The rest of the picks don't necessarily move the needle for me. Who do you think won the UFL draft? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. To Michigan, Julian Pearl out of Illinois, 7th round grade. I think there's some upside there that hasn't quite been fully tapped into size-wise. Love the pick of Dwight McGlothern. He was my 5th round grade, 175 overall. It's some off-the-field stuff, but talented football player. Isaac Awuku at Ole Miss. Again, if you're going to just go, let's take the Power 5 kid. That makes sense. Brian Dooley, invest in the trenches out of Eastern Michigan. Rocky Lombardi at NIU. You're going local, so a bit of a boost there for him and Dooley, I suppose. He ain't going to make it in the NFL, so why not? Fine. Dayton Wade, again, they're going back to the Power 5. I guess they watched a lot of Ole Miss film this year. Akeem Dents, safety out of Florida, was kind of maybe rotation is the right word for it there, but again, at FSU defense was loaded. Why not take a gamble there? Center Andrew Meyer out of UTEP was in the 8th round. J.D. Duplain out of Michigan State. Again, there's a lot of local picks, which I actually kind of appreciate that flair. And Isaiah Stallbird in round 10. I'm going to give him a B. I like those first 2 picks. Everything else was okay in the end. The San Antonio Brahmas might be pushing they took too many good players option. Gabe Hall, I had a 5th round grade on. He's getting a chance in the NFL on a practice or in the preseason. And then they got, I thought, the best available undrafted free agent. I had a top 100 grade on Gabriel Murphy. I kind of think he might make the Vikings. That wouldn't surprise me. But if he doesn't, he's going to dominate the UFL, where that arm length is going to be as big of a concern. Donovan Jennings out of South Florida in the 3rd round. Miles Battle, the cornerback out of Utah. Jamari Chroma, defensive end out of James Madison in the 5th round. I mentioned this earlier. I think Tulu Griffin, who was my top available receiver that went undrafted in the real NFL draft, I think he's going to dominate the UFL. He is a dangerous return man. That's why he got a 6th round grade on me. I think with the UFL rules, he's going to thrive. The Brahmas got my number 1, number 2 in Bo Braid, undrafted free agent, plus number 5 in Gabe Hall. That's quite the haul, if you don't mind me making a bit of a joke there. Lydiger Griffin was also top. I believe he was top 20 on that list too. Love the pick of Beau Braid. Sincere Haynesworth out of Tulane, some offensive line help. DJ Miller at Kent was a good MAC football player. And then Joshua Cephas out of UTSA, also taken there. I wasn't as high on him as others, but I think that's a good pick in the 10th round. Overall, I think this is an A+. They got a lot of good football players that I was high on coming out. How can I not give that a high grade, given how high I was on Hall and Murphy and Griffin and Braid? Who lost the UFL draft? Let me know in the comments section of today's video. All right, Birmingham, the defending champions, right? Frank Crum, who I had a draftable grade on out of Wyoming, 6th-round pick. The hair is incredible. Double dip on the offensive line. Lorenzo Thompson. I didn't watch any URI film. Amani Bailey, I had a 7th-round grade on, 257 overall. Isaiah Williams, I had a 7th-round grade on, 261 on my big board. Dalen Hoker, stat for this before, draftable grade on, 6th-round pick, for me at least, out of Colorado State. Obviously, he went undrafted like all these players did. Trajan Jeffcoat, I didn't actually get to, but I watched plenty of Arkansas games. I think that's a pretty intriguing pick there. Andrew Coker was the other TCU offensive tackle. I think he's going to get a chance in as a practice squad guy, maybe in the NFL. But 3 offensive linemen, best in your trenches. Amarian Brown, the other, maybe it is, South Carolina receiver at this point. And then Sam Hartman in the 9th, I think is awesome. Maybe he sticks on a practice squad and that the Stallions don't get him, and that's why he fell to the 9th round. But I love it. That's an awesome pick. I had Ethan Driscoll top 240 on my board. I think Birmingham had the best draft. Crum, Bailey, Williams, Hoker, Hartman, Driscoll, Jeffcoat. That's a really good haul. It is an A+ for me. I think Birmingham, the rich get richer in the UFL, if, of course, those guys actually don't make it in the NFL.